All right. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smithy with another GSD Mode podcast interview. And I'm stoked and honored to have Ryan Kelly and David Casey on the podcast. What's up, fellas?
Hey, what's going on, Josh?
How's it going, Josh?
Now I'm stoked to have you guys on, man. You guys are on fire, dude. A couple of dudes that, lifelong friends, if you will, from high school that jumped into this game and crushed it as team leaders. And then now you're blowing up the brokerage game, man. And you guys have done some really impressive shit, man. So I'm stoked to have you guys on, man. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been watching this podcast for a long time, and you've been my life, my little lifeline. When I'm lost in the ocean of real estate, I Google Joshua Smith podcast, and I just figure out all the little ins and outs of the business. So I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, that boot camp really got my business off the ground too. He introduced me to that. So
yeah,
it's been a long time.
So thank you for everything you're doing, Josh. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It means a lot. And here's the cool thing about it though, is like success is never self-made. When people, and now look, we may not go out there and take loans or had some rich family member, uncle, but we always had, support, mentorship, knowledge, but it comes full circle where, because you guys are absolutely murdering it. Your first year is with teaming up as a real estate team, did over 100 units. Then you transition into brokerage, and within 90 days of operating your brokerage, you're able to exit from production and continue just to explode it. So, and now it goes full circle. And now you're on a podcast.
Oh man, it's crazy.
The versions of you guys 10 years, however long, I guess we're not even that 4 or 5 years ago when you guys first kind of got in the game at a big level, so it all goes full circle, and it's interesting how that works out, man. So let's first start with, how'd you guys team up? And then what led you from teaming up to then transitioning into the brokerage side?
Yeah, so I'll start that off. I was just, making my way through real estate in Arizona. Started off wholesaling, dropping "We Buy Houses" signs, talking to motivated sellers. I got my license, and about that time, I was 23. We're the same age. I got out of the military and I started a new career. I didn't want to work for the man. I knew that for sure. And the one book, I'll share this because it was kind of like life change for me. I was driving on my way to work, working a 9 to 5 out of the military, and it was Warren Buffett's book called Snowball. And in the first story intro to the book, he talks about Warren Buffett as a kid playing in the snow. He's building a little snowball, making a snowman. He's rolling it down his yard. The ball gets bigger and bigger. He rolls it down the street. He's got a big, massive snowball. And then he looks up and he sees a world full of snow. And to me, that was the opportunity of compound interest and investments and just taking advantage of what's out there. So that got me thinking about, okay, how could I do this in my life? Started in real estate. And then I was trying to convince him to get into real estate at the same time. But he's seeing me, I'll close one deal a month, just casually going about it, working part-time at, I was working at the airport actually throwing bags, but I was really just going on vacation full time. And you were working at the Ford plant at the time,
Oh
right?
man, I was stuck in the rat race for sure. Had 50, 60 hours a week to make a couple grand a month, had a family. Mm-hmm. It was rough. And then David got me into real estate, decided to take some of that part-time work up at the Ford plant to get online and do the real estate course, pass my test. Did some of the stuff that he implemented from you after I got into your boot camp with the online marketplace and some of the other stuff. And it just blew up. I think Kansas City is just a softer market in that aspect. So it was super easy to implement, get deals, get going. And then I exited from the Ford plant in a year. Matched my salary and I was out.
Yeah. And then so what happened was initially he didn't tell you the part where he was Googling how much a real estate agent makes.
Oh, it was so bad. I was like, you're stupid. I'm making $100K. Average agent here makes $32,000. I'm like, no.
I made that this month, man. Like, you're crazy. And so he didn't believe me at first, and then finally flew out a couple times. And we always kind of had a good working relationship where it was like he would just call me when he'd get off work and be like, dude, I got this happening. And before I knew it, just from running these Facebook ads that you would teach and all these other things, he was setting 4 or 5 appointments, just getting way too busy, and he couldn't hold it all down. So I started working virtually in the back end, kind of help him run the transactions while I was in Arizona. And then it just clicked one day. We're just like, dude, we need to partner up.
Yeah.
And then so, we put together a game plan to fly back home, and then we started our team. And I moved my family back here.
That was a 6-hour conversation well into the night that we decided we got to do this. Light bulbs went off. And I think taking that chance was huge for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's
been but you guys also, because you guys grew up together in high school.
Right.
So, you guys had enough, because I get asked a lot about partnerships, and I'm like, look, be very, very careful. Partnerships can be the most brilliant, amazing thing that's out there, but it's a marriage and business, dude. So and why is there a high divorce rate in marriages? It's because of bad selection. It's right. So it becomes the same element with business of you got to be careful. So you guys had the friendship, but then you were also able to test run, if you will, the working relationship, and maybe you had other ventures outside of this real estate game. As you guys were growing up together, whatever that may be, mowing lawns and shit, growing up, how we out there making money. But and I'm bringing that up. I mean, that's stuff that you guys know, but for our listener base partnerships are amazing, but make sure to vet them. What
I would say
that it is for you that's made it such a great partnership.
Yeah.
One book that we read right in the beginning was the BI Duo with the rocket.
Rocket Fuel.
Yeah, Rocket Fuel. Read that book and it clicked. Like, this dude's a visionary. He'll have 20 great ideas, but if he doesn't have the accountability and the integration part, it's a nightmare. So I'd say, definitely make sure you guys don't have all the same skills and stuff when looking for a partnership.
Yeah, we're both like, our vision is aligned. Like, we know where we want to go, but like how we get there is different, and we balance each other out. So you need that element, and you got to be able to just call people out too on a regular basis and have those open conversations.
Yeah, the one thing that I do want to say, and this is again just more for those that are listening, is Ryan, you'd mentioned that with your market in Kansas City, and maybe it's just a softer market, meaning people weren't doing these things in your market. But here's the thing is, and David, you were in Phoenix. It's the most saturated real estate market per capita on the planet. 60,000 agents just in our MLS. Nobody does this shit out here either. Right? So and I only want to bring that because I don't want anybody to have a limiting belief of one of the biggest Achilles heels that I see realtors have is, oh, that won't work in my market. My situation is different. Like it all works. We're so blessed to be in an industry that we have, so many uncommitted mofos in our, and it's like fish with dynamite for those that are committed. And where, so you guys are in Kansas City.
Yep.
Okay. Just to get some context there for the listeners. All right. So you guys decided to team up, boom. You explode, dude. What'd you do? Like 100 units your first year as a team?
Pretty close to it. COVID hit. So whenever we were transitioning, because he's so impatient, like he's the integrator, he wants stuff now. And so I try to think things through a little bit better. But as we're, talking about the transition, I mean, he's like, dude, you got to get out of here right now. I'm like, I can't just leave my wife. She has a year left in grad school. Like, we got to wrap that up. I got, my pets there and all that stuff. So we decided I'm going to fly into Kansas City 2 weeks on 2-week intervals. So I always had a reoccurring flight, 2 weeks in Kansas City, 2 weeks in Arizona. And then I got my real estate license in Missouri. And then now we were able to kind of officially brand ourselves. So I was in 2 markets at one time. And then 2020, I think I moved out in March when I officially moved.
Yep. And then your wife moved in June. It was funny though. 60% of our business was just buyers, from the marketplace and sponsored ads and open houses and stuff. We ran that mega open house thing. And it just blew up there. We're like, man, you know what? We need listings. Like, we knew the market like the back of our hand. We'd shop the same, buyers constantly. And we're like, we're going to go hard for listings. So in August of that year, 2020, started hitting for sale by owners hard. And we ended up with like 21 listings and 1 buyer in August. And that's when we were like, oh, shoot, there's so much leverage you can have with listings and stuff. But then from there, we were able to grow our team out, add a couple agents, have them run buyers. And then we just said, hey, what's next? So I think that's important too. A lot of the people who grow really big and who don't, these people ask, what's next for me? And that can be huge. So you should always be asking yourself that too.
Yeah. And then when you guys decided to pivot, when you started asking yourself what's next, you guys decided to go the franchise route versus going out there and trying to reinvent the wheel, recreate the wheel on your own. And, I'll get asked from a lot of agents of, well, which route should I go? And I'm like, look, dude, do you want to be able to go buy the Jimmy Johns and plug into a proven model where all you got to do is just show up? And if you it's a paint by number system where if you do the work and follow the playbook, you're going to succeed. Or do you want to go out there and try to reinvent your own Jimmy? Right? Like, and there's no right or wrong of either. It's just which path do you guys want to go? And you chose to plug into, a franchise system, and it sounds like that was the right move to make.
Dude, it's who, not how. I I had to try to figure out the how, and that was going to drive me crazy because I'm the one that got my broker's license. Ryan hates taking these tests.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so I was kind of the guinea pig for that. And I'm like, I'm going to have to design logos, manuals, procedures, accounting. The list goes on and on, just thinking about running an office. And I'm like, nah, it's who, not how. Who's already got this set up? When I wanted to learn how to be a top producer and teach my friends how to get into real estate, I said, go get on Josh's stuff. I said, he's the who. And so, okay, I want to open up my brokerage. What do I do? I'm going to go franchise model because it's already there. Now there's a ton to choose from. So you got to weigh out pros and cons of what fits your structure and what you want to do.
And the reason I think we went with First Class is just because they had the both models. The entrepreneur, hey, it's a team in a box, and you've got the partner agents where we can be super hands-on, leads, prospecting, how to run a transaction software, the CRM. And having both those models already there, plus 30 plus support staff on his end, was huge for us because now we always have questions. We have someone to go to.
Yeah, it's just having that support, was huge as well, because we would have had to recreate all this stuff, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel.
No.
So, that's what led us down the franchise model, and it was just plug and play from day one. Everything was there, and it's super profitable too, just because it's low overhead. It's just
literally month 3, we're profitable,
and that's huge too. I mean, I'm a big Grant Cardone follower, and he always talks about you got to be in the right vehicle. Meaning, like, whatever vertical you're in, whether you're in real estate, that's a great place to be because your income's uncapped. But then also the support you surround yourself with, whether your teams, like we talked about, partnerships are super important, the person you marry, all these other things. Well, if I'm going to go launch an office, I don't want to be the only person who it's all on my back. So leveraging a franchise was, huge for us. So that's why we went that route.
Yeah, no, I mean, if look, I'm not a brokerage owner. I'm not, and I've said this on the podcast many times, but if I were to do it, I'd go the route that you guys went, and I'd go with First Class. I mean, I don't have a vested interest. I'm not with anybody.
Right.
I'm just running my team out here. So this is the listeners that are watching, they can take this for what they will, but I was in the RE/MAX system for the first 9 years of my career. I've studied and looked into, doing a Keller Williams franchise and a partnership at different points in my career. And I've seen all the models, and in my opinion, there is no better model if the franchise route's for you. And I look at this: do you want to go fast, dude? Right? Do you want to go fast and do you want to go far? Then to me, it makes sense to plug in. To that. So I in my opinion, you guys made the right move, and it seems like it's paying off massively. And I want to find out, dude, okay, so you make this move, you jump in, and now within 90 days of going from a team to now owning your own brokerage, you guys you're able to exit out of production. And that shows me that you were able to successfully, because a lot of team leaders have a very difficult time going from the team leader hat or real estate agent hat to now a business owner hat, where, and they keep themselves in production, and they're not focused again on building this into a scalable big business. What were some of those moves that you guys did that allowed you to scale it and grow it so damn fast and be able to exit out of production that fast? I mean, I don't know if I've ever met anybody that's exited from production that fast.
He handled a lot of it because, a lot of our clients were like sphere of influence people that already knew us, liked us, and trusted us. And so when we were handing those off, Ryan, he had a pretty good system for just bridging that gap. Cause it's always a fear of like, hey, the lead's probably going to come back to me because this agent, I can't trust him. So like share with them kind of what you did up front.
Yeah, so absolutely. Going from 100% commission to 50% commission and having to have 100% compliance on that end. It was finding the right people. I think the more people you bring in, and that's why recruiting was so huge for us. Like, hey, the first few agents you're just dumping these people onto, and they're probably not the best person to be doing that. So we had to bring more people in, and our compliance just got higher and higher at that point. I love Facebook Messenger for that, getting people into a group chat. I'd go on the first listing appointment with them a lot of times, and it would just start to pay off to where, because now they're almost better than me after training, constant prospecting each day, getting those people to do the showing appointments and the listing appointments a certain way. That helped out a lot too. And then we went from, let's get your own deals, because our thing was we don't want it to be on our backs with the leads and everything else. We want to show them how to get their own business and create their own brand and all that other stuff, which is why the partner and entrepreneur model was big for us, but
it worked out. So he would just open up you get a lead, hit him up, say, hey, Ryan, I want to go, come list my house or come buy a house with me. And then he would say, okay, perfect. And then just literally link him up in a group chat and then just start the dialogue over again and say, hey, I'm looping us in with, Joe or whoever. And then they would go on the appointment and kind of just roll over the handoff until that agent got comfortable enough to have a conversation without that, in-person meetup. But we always leaned on that group chat.
But you got to realize too, it's a sprint, because either you have a ton of capital and you can weather the storm of going slow, but we didn't have that. So we just sprinted like crazy. We were, prospecting for leads, recruiting like crazy. I equate it to like the buffalo coming through a storm. Those guys just sprint right to it and get through it quick. That was us. So we're like on to the next thing, and eventually we sprinted so fast to where
it caught up.
Now we can run at a lot higher volume and a lot less splits.
So like just a little transparency too. Like when we first launched our office, it wasn't like all sunshine and rainbows up front. Like literally we just did a few deals. Like I think we did like under 10 deals in one quarter personally.
It was terrible.
Because we immediately we jumped out of production too quick. This is a sprint to run phase. And then we looked at each other like, what are we doing? We just sold 100 homes last year. And then now we're barely on track to even get close to that this year. So now we're trying to think, okay, how do we got to restructure this? So we went from 3 agents at our office to about 25 within like 60 days. And we said, okay, that was our problem. We need to go ahead and just recruit like crazy and try to just fill in the gaps. And then now we're at like a 15x multiplier for this year based on where we were at last year, because we reshifted our focus and our priorities.
And if you don't have the right people, trust me, they're out there, but you got to find them. When you get 100 different agents in, you're going to find a lot more variety and a lot more people to lean on than if you just try to find the perfect partner. Some people that we've hired on, you're thinking like, oh, there's no way. And then they just blow up.
Mm-hmm.
You give them a little bit of implementation and advice, and they hit the ground running. We had one gal, she's 60 days in. She just set her 5th for sale by owner listing appointment. 60 days in, just with the scripts that we have on our university. But
yeah, she's crushing it. So
yeah, it's I haven't been able to. And when I say I haven't cracked the code on that, I don't know anybody that has. Meaning, like, what's the avatar or the ideal, like for the perfect agent? We go out there, we try to personalize it, and it comes down to like, how hungry are they? How fucking bad do they want it? I've seen people like, dude, age doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter. I got one of my good friends who I think that you guys know, Guillermo, who, he's blind and he murders it in this business. Like there is no, the only limiting beliefs are the ones that we set in our mind, but it really comes down to how bad do you want it? I've had, even on this podcast, I've had agents that have, such thick accents where you can barely understand their English, and they're working with English clients, that speak English as their primary language, and they're doing hundreds of millions a year in production. Like, all these limiting beliefs that we think that are going to limit our production don't, if you're committed and you want it bad enough.
Yeah.
But dude, you gotta flood them in.
And that's what David was saying earlier about your boot camp. How many thousands of people have ran your boot camp, and what's the percentage of the people crushing it? You can give someone everything, but then they got to run the play.
Dude, that's why I'm so fearless whenever I'm like giving out information to agents, because our recruiting, like we hired 2 recruiters this year to help in our expansion process. And because you've always been so generous in giving, like literally your whole playbook's out there.
Absolutely.
I still have it. Like for the longest time, I had it tabbed on my bookmark. It was my GSD like packet. And I didn't start doing it until like 4 years after I bought it. And so it's just like so many people, they fail to implement the stuff. So I just give them everything. I'm like, well, what do you want? And then, that training looks really cool. Well, here it is. And then you just know they're not going to get it. And they always end up coming over and asking like, hey, I like what you're doing. Can I join up? Because they, for some reason, have a limiting belief themselves, So
So let's talk about recruiting itself, because it's, there's no shortage of information out there of how to go out there and get buyers and sellers. Mm-hmm. And it all works. There's no magic script. It's just like fucking pick something and be consistent with it, and just put your head, like you're going to go crush it if you do that, and I'll talk to agents. They're like, oh, I can't close. like when I have it, even on my team or whatever, like, they're struggling to close a deal a month. I'm like, dude, you got to be intentionally trying to self-sabotage your business to not at least do a deal a month.
Right.
But dude, it's so fucking easy unless you're intentionally trying to sabotage your business in a negative manner. And I know that's tough for those that are struggling to hear, but you got to hear, like, got to have somebody that's willing to hug you and kick you in the ass at the same time. Right.
That's it.
But when it comes to recruiting, man, I mean, this is, there's not as much information and intel out there on recruiting, and it can become a difficult process, to go out there and recruit agents, because we're in an industry where everybody's always being recruited. As an agent, it's like, I got title companies blowing me up. I got, lenders blowing me up. I got other brokerages blowing me up.
Right.
So what have you guys found? Like, what's really worked for you to go out there? Because what you guys recruited like 50 or 60 agents within about a 12-month span?
Yeah, that's right. And so it came from a mindset shift. Like whatever you focus on expands. We get on a coaching call, with the owner of the franchise we're with, and he'd say, he's like, we get off a call, we talk about recruiting. He's like, we all put our hands together, said recruit on 3. And then we go make a Facebook status about a new listing that just came up or something else. And he's like, your focus is off. He's like, how can you focus on buyers and sellers, but tell me you want to grow recruiting? And so, like whenever Ryan said, whenever we were going after for sale by owners, we shifted our focus. We said, we're only going after listings. And then it just happened. So with that, we wrote down 2 metrics on our board. It was ratified deals and then agent hires. That's all we cared about.
Right.
Just make sure that the business is being profitable from income, making sure the agents we have are in production. And then how many new agents are we bringing on the board? And so we did a little analysis. We said, what's our cost per agent and what's our income per agent? And, it all averages out. You have the people that do everything and you got some people that are just getting into it. And so, we figured out what that number was and we pitted up against what's our monthly recurring expenses. And we said, we need 25 agents. If we can get to 25 agents, just put our head down, just recruit, everything else will fix itself. And that's literally what we did. We just said, balls to the wall as fast as we can go. We're going to recruit like crazy and just do everything to get to that number count.
Yeah. And I think up front, to really get out of production as quickly as we did, we needed, 3 or 4 solid agents that we could, hand our business over to and know that it was going to get taken to the finish line. To get those 3 or 4, we needed 10 agents.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we started out with. And then we were able to slowly get out of production that way. But yeah, if you could just start out, if your goal is to get out of production, find 3 or 4 solid players. And it's probably going to take you at least 10 to 12 agents of getting them onboarded to do that.
If you go on our Facebook page too, that's our primary method of advertising. And, like if you just go look through our videos we were doing from a year ago to today, I mean, it's like not high quality production. We're running around selfie, video on our phone. Like one of our requirements whenever we got in a team together was we always had to make 10 contacts no matter what. And then we had to do 1 video a day. And we just kept that same mantra going. So whenever we were in production, that's what we were doing. So we got so many deals. So we did close to 100 deals in 1 year. And then, when we started bringing on agents, same thing.
What we lived by was we're not leaving today without an appointment for tomorrow. So we would just go by that each day. And that's what we really drive into our agents with prospecting. Man, you're not going home. What appointments do you have set? If you don't have one, don't leave.
Yeah.
Like that's how serious we were into it. But
just a little mantra, just something to keep it top of mind. But,
Yep. And then, the thing that a lot of people don't focus on when it comes to recruiting is until it becomes a problem and they feel the pain, but it's like, you gotta have something to recruit to, and if we look at this, it's like, okay, you got a team, you got a brokerage, you got whatever, but it's, it's deeper than that, right? Like you have to have this machine now, okay, we can effectively onboard them and then support them on an ongoing standpoint. And a lot of people, don't invest the time to really build that infrastructure. So then all of a sudden it's like they go recruit 6 agents. Well, now they get so bogged down by training and supporting those 6 agents that it forces them to lose the momentum, and now they don't get back to recruiting until they start losing some more, and, where it becomes this consistent thing. So, it sounds like you guys have also got the machine built from an onboarding, training, ongoing support standpoint that allows you to be consistent with your recruiting. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, recruiters are tasked with taking it home. So they do all the onboarding, initial contact, follow-up, get them into one of our events, get them to show up in person, get them to engage with our community. And then once they're ready to go, They dish out, we have a DocuSign file set up with all of our onboarding stuff. That gets kicked out. We ask for a picture of their driver's license. Not that we necessarily need it, but it's just a level of commitment to say that, hey, look, here's my license. I'm going to sign the paperwork you send over to me. We onboard them, and it's just a pretty seamless process. Kansas for us is all online. So I just kick them over the company number. They initiate the transfer. Missouri is a little more hands-on. They're kind of still in the past. I got to physically mail transfer forms to the state, and it takes a few weeks to get back. So that's a real pain. But we outlined the checklist, and we gave it to our girls, and we said, hey, knock it out.
And one thing we learned early on is, where do we want to be at in 6 months? We go in like 6 months increments.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, what are the 3 things that are going to stop us from getting there? Early on, it was, okay, we don't have any checklists to go from, and they were all there provided by the franchise, but we weren't looking that deep into it. You can have everything, but not look at it. So once we were able to find out what those 3 problems were going to be within that 6-month period to get to where we wanted to go, if we can knock that out up front,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be way better off and more chance to get that goal that we're looking to hit.
And like for us too, like we hire when we anticipate an influx.
Yeah.
So we had one recruiter, and we actually started with an assistant, but we realized we had her doing everything around the office. And like with our same principles, what we focus on is what's going to get done. And she was too distracted. So then we dialed it in, made up a new checklist. We basically ripped off the recruiting checklist that we already had at our office. It was like 4 months in, we're like, oh, this was already provided for us. And then we read it, we're like, this is brilliant. And so that's kind of goes for
performance
a lot of things.
and print.
PIPs, performance improvement plans, and all this stuff. So we fired her, and then brought on a new recruiter with different, responsibilities. And then we just knew we were going to take off. So we hired another one in the slow month. So we're anticipating it, and then we'll make that investment, get her trained up. And then now when it gets into busy season, we can handle onboarding teams and everything else. So that's kind of what our focus is shifting towards.
And a lot of people think that you have to have a ton of staff to run a brokerage. We literally have 2 people that onboard 7 to 10 agents a month.
Yeah.
So and they run the office, the culture, the events, and everything is already there for you. So I would say to that, you don't need, 5 or 6 employees to run an office.
Yeah. Effectively, we have a TC that handles a lot of our back end stuff. So processing commission checks or whatever, our compliance department, but that's a service to our agents. She gets a file from the start and then brings it to the end. And then also we have, and she's licensed. So she's paid on a closing basis. So it's no direct out of pocket cost.
Yeah. It's a moneymaker for you guys, right?
Exactly. It's an income source. And then on for the recruiting side, we invest in them. So they are our only salaried employees. And there's 2 of them, and their sales, like we have goals, and so it's like you hit your quota, you get X, Y, and Z. And so, we have those in place, and then everything else, man, you get a culture that is like fun and inviting and people want to be around it. We have incentives for our agents to bring on agents, so they start recruiting for us, and it just gets fun. So we just build up all the different things, events, culture, and stuff like that. We show up kind of to the party. All the agents show up, they love it, and they always bring a friend or something. So,
and then after you get past that point, you can look at your ancillary businesses too. Mortgage, title, that can be huge for, especially driving the recruits. Now they use your mortgage, your title company, and it's just all, you have a closing and you get paid from all 3. So
yeah,
that was exciting too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So did I hear? So it sounds like you guys are in Kansas, but then also Missouri.
Yep.
Did I hear that right? So you have 2 offices at this point?
1 office, right? Also, the way it works is our brokerage physical building is in Missouri, but Kansas allows us to utilize this address as like a reciprocity thing because they're bordering states. Our MLS splits both Kansas and Missouri. So
we just locked down office 2. That is on the border of Kansas.
We're actually going to go sign the lease tonight. And it's downtown. It's more of like our hipster office. So this one, we took over an old law office.
Yeah.
We were piggybacking out of a title company for the first 3 months. One of our buddies, he owned a title company, and they were kind of going out of business and had a bunch of vacant rooms. So we just said, dude, can we just jump in there? So we're like, this isn't really a good look for a new office. So we had to throw down and put our big boy pants, sign a lease, and actually launch an office. And so we got this one going, and we're like, man, if we could grow an office in this part of town, we're going to crush when we get to a nice part of town downtown. And so that's what we're doing actually right now.
One thing that I wish if we would have went back, one thing I wish we would have done from the start is First Class is like huge on their virtual platform. You can run this thing, statewide without an actual physical office. So getting up to that profit margin where you're comfortable with taking over a building and some other things, I wish we would have ran that play first, but either way, it worked out and we just had to sprint harder.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't, and maybe I am a little biased because, Ryan Finch is a long-term good friend of mine, but the dude really has thought it through really well. And, but also to the point of he's able to add value that others can't add because they haven't done what he's done. Meaning, he went from being an agent on a team, then to being an individual agent, then to being, the number one dude with his team and the number one franchise and then this, states at the time, then to breaking off there, starting his own brokerage, then to expand, like he's evolved through each element of it, to the point where he kind of knows what we need at each stage and is able to provide that and what those choke points are, when he was expanding his own brokerage to different locations, and then realizing I was talking to somebody, I won't throw the name under the bus because I don't like to talk negatively of other, brokers or franchises, but, they were talking with one of the big names out there and it was something like, 250 or 300 grand to get started out of the gate because they had to, and most of it was tied not to the franchise fees, but they had to have a building and the TIs with the building had to be in such a specific way that it was going to cost them between 250 to 300 grand out of the gate to just join this franchise. And then I'm having a conversation with them. I'm like, for fucking what? You don't get anything from them other than a name. I'm like, dude, this makes zero sense. Like, don't walk from this deal, run, dude. Like, don't do this deal. And it blows my mind.
What got me is, everything was there. Brokerage in a box. Just picture it. Like you just step in, operate your team like normal, just lean on them until you get your own infrastructure, but it's all there. You will not drop the ball. And it costs less than what we were paying at our last brokerage just to be there. I was like, I'm going to spend this money no matter what. I might as well spend it in something for a one-time cost. I got to pay this once. And then, and I own it. So it's like, that just clicked. I'm like, well, regardless, I'm going to be up no matter what. So let's give it a shot.
Right.
Yeah. No, 250.
But you're right. Leaning on Ryan was so crucial for us. We would come up with an idea, call him, and he's like, no, yeah, I've already tried that. Don't do that. Do this. And then we'd run that. And then we just continue to grow and grow and grow. And it's like, if we hadn't had that, we'd still be probably in the beginning stages in a rabbit hole of, our idea was to run a SEAL team.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, man, you got to recruit.
Yeah.
So,
and like, just from the standpoint of like growing, training and coaching and whatnot, like we've been with some of the bigger coaching companies and they teach you how to be a great agent. But at some point when you're on this journey of like asking what's next, I don't need to learn how to go knock more doors or, get better at my listing presentation. I got to learn how to grow a business. Yeah. Like, cause that's why I got into this. Like like I told you earlier, I wanted to be a wholesale investor. And the only reason why I did that is because I Googled how to get rich quick when I got out of the military. I was either stocks, I was going to invest in the stock market because my brother-in-law is like a wizard at that, or I'm going to do real estate investing because those are the only YouTube videos that were popping up. I tried stocks for 1 week. I only had $300 and I'm like, my return is 12%. That's like, well, how much is that? I'm going to wait forever before I get any money. And then so I'm like, real estate's the way to go. But like, I didn't jump in this to be a great listing agent. No, I got into this to try to set up a lifestyle for myself where I actually feel like fulfilled, and it's just led us down this path. So, it's try not to get too stuck in like, oh, I got to be a really good agent. Or, some people label on their, brokerages and teams like, oh, you're a buyer agent at first. And once you graduate from buyer agent, you're going to be now a listing agent. And I understand there's a growth process to it and you should learn the basics and stuff like that. But if I'm like a good sales guy and I figure out I watch one of Josh's videos and I learn how to go call for sale by owners or something or expireds, and I pull up 12 listings in 1 month, am I still a buyer agent at that office? I'm like, and one thing I took from you a long time ago because when I was running buyer ads, like down payment assistance and whatnot, too many people, they kind of like turn their head to, hustling buyers. And you said, man, I don't care if it's a buyer or seller. Who gives a shit? I want a commission check. That's what I'm after. And so, my mindset's only been at that. It's like, how do I, why am I here? What am I after? So
Yeah. And you guys are so right. I mean, too many people get fixated and they get this tunnel vision, man. This, like the common thing I hear is, oh, you got to list to last, or the only way to scale this business is through listings because they provide leverage. And I'm like, look, dude, when there's a red book, $1 million something, whatever agent that was written 30 years ago. And maybe that was true then. Today, that shit's so far out the fucking window. Dude, I have agents inside my organization that are doing 6, 7 buyer consults a day, just stacking like they would listing appointments, that have showing agent teams built out where we can leverage and scale the buy side every bit, if not more so than the list side. But then now you're building that foundation for repeat and referral business to the point now where, and I'm probably the only team leader that'll say this on the planet, right? But I will, if I have the choice between a 100% buyer business, 100% listing business, I'll take the 100% buyer business all day long. It costs me less to do it. I'll scale it way faster, and I will build a foundation that's untouchable with sphere of influence, repeat referral business than the other motherfuckers all day long. And I'll crush them on a margin standpoint all day long too.
But you have to have
get
that
fixated with a mindset, as you guys are talking about, whatever it is, whether it's in the business, I look at it, it's all recruiting, right? Like I'm either recruiting buyers or sellers, or I get to a point in my career, I'm recruiting agents. Or, like to me, like I haven't recruited an agent or recruited a buyer seller in about 5 years now. Like I just recruit leaders to run the machine for me. And, I work my 1 hour a week and go enjoy my life.
A little Tim Ferriss style, right? 4-hour work week.
Yeah. And I keep myself busy with other things, but
100%.
So like, what's next for you guys, man? I mean, this is such a new journey. I don't think that people really, like, I've been doing this since 2005. Like you guys teamed up in 2018, 2017, 18,
2019. He got his license in 2017. He sold like 26 houses first year at Ford, working
part-time. I was on the line like, hello, yeah, I'll give you a call later. Click.
He would three-way me in. He three-way me in with a client, and it just sounds like he's at a freaking concert or something because the assembly line's running. It's so loud, and I'm like, what are you doing? He still sold 26 homes. And I'm in Arizona. I'm like, kind of just like, dude, nobody knows me. I don't know them. I don't know where my next deal's coming from. I'm running Facebook ads, talking to people who speak Spanish. And I'm like, I'm at Starbucks. I was doing what you were saying. I was at Starbucks all day. I'd have 9 buyer consultations lined up. I had your packet. I had the dream home form. I had everything, dude. I was a wizard at that pitch. And then he's out here just slanging houses, working full-time at Ford. And
so I will tell you, the first deal I lined up, my sister's house sold, found the buyer. The buyer's house had to sell. I found that buyer. I was raking in like $45,000 on my first deal. It was like all line by line by line.
It's like I've never double-ended a deal. I'm like, I don't know what that feels like. He's like a 6-pack.
But I will say that's the visionary integrators thing. He would run make open houses, sell a $800,000 house based off your playbook, and then never do it again. Whereas if I was there, I'm like, no, we're doing this every weekend. We're going and going and going.
I tend to look for what's next too early. Because like I get bored of things. I like variety in my life. I like the spontaneity of things. I like being, on the ball. I'll show up to one of our meetings, like not a meeting, but like a mastermind or something like that, where I'm presenting. I'll prep 30 minutes before and I'll crush it. But like him, he needs to make sure everything's perfect because he gets to, like we're just different anxiety levels towards different things. So when you're asking what's next, it's like we scaled it so fast, and we started working together about 18 months ago when we kind of solidified the team. And so from 18 months of us showing up being like, I guess we're tired of buyers. Let's see what we get some listings. So that conversation happened about 18 months ago. And then fast forward now, we got, a brokerage with 60 agents. We're open our second office. Literally, we're going to do that today. We got agreements with mortgage, with title. We're scaling, we're talking to people in different states, trying to launch, expansion offices and whatnot.
And now we're looking at, okay, who's the who? So we've got admin, managing type roles we're looking to fill. And then it'll be more so of like doing these awesome podcasts with people like you, doing the appointments and the meetings and things that we like to do with bigger teams and stuff like that. So
and so one thing we look at too, a good metric is like an acronym called GETMO, good enough to move on. And so I think that's what's helped us progress in big steps, because never things like just a slow, steady climb up. It is more just like a step. It's like you do something long enough until you can hand it off to someone else. And then what's my next move? And it should be a step in the right direction.
And that's like leveraging your buyer clients with showings and showing assistance and everything else. Like if you can show someone how to show, and then show someone how to get the leads. And yeah, it can be highly profitable and
Yeah.
a well-run business.
And so, what's next for us? It's like we're looking at how do we delegate more of the tasks that we do at the office, and then create more of that operations role. Okay, so now it's going to kind of run itself, and now we're envisioning real estate offices almost like ice cream shops. So it's like, how do I get this ice cream shop operating at a high enough level to be profitable in a working business model? I can go open up the second ice cream shop. If I have something that works, I should be able to duplicate it. And so we're just constantly wrapping our heads around how do we do that, and how do we lead with profit. So that's kind of what's next, this next office, and just kind of putting in the right players.
Yep. Yep. 100%, man. And just to kind of pivot directions here, a lot of people are just really curious about what's going on with the market, and I think of this from buyers, sellers to, dude, it's not just buyers and sellers, it's all of us, right? It's one of those things where there's a lot of crazy shit going on, man. What are you guys seeing in your market, and what are you doing to prepare for whatever's to come, whatever that may be?
So interest rates at a 4%. Buyer market's still super high. I feel like listing prices are still going over asking price on our sellers. I see both equity and interest rates rising, and it's going to be a little bit of both. I think the market's going to be huge this year too for sellers putting their houses on the market. There's going to be an influx in inventory. After that, I don't know. You got anything?
Yeah, I mean, our market, it's a little bit slower than Arizona. We're not multiplying. We don't have these 4,000 home developments rolling out. We didn't put in a new interstate either, or a highway, the 303. I remember when that expanded. And so in Kansas City, it's just like builders are they're slow to build. And I don't know. It's just like for us, it's just we need more listings to hit the market. So hopefully with with interest rates going up, that could slow down the buyers a little bit. Maybe give the sellers a little more. I don't know. We need more inventory. So I really don't see anything drastically happening with the market. Definitely not like an 08, 09 situation. I think we're just going to kind of just remain on the same path and maybe plateau out a little bit, because it's going to get a little more expensive to borrow money. But 4% interest rates are still decent interest rates.
That's when I got into it. That's what they were, 4.25%, 4.5%.
And so, we've been blessed with this market recently. I know our lending team, they've been crushing it with refinances. So that's been a huge market and opportunity for us. So I'm glad we, had a foot in mortgage for a little bit. But yeah, I just think it's going to continue. And one thing that we had a conversation right before we partnered up together, I think you were kind of griping about, there's just like, the market's slow.
Yeah, I remember that conversation.
Yeah, so he's complaining about the market, and I was like, dude, the market's not slow, you're just slow.
Yeah.
Like, nah, it's just you, bro. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, I got a call coming in. He calls this lady who's trying to set up an appointment or checking on an offer or something like that. And she goes, oh my gosh, Ryan, I'm so sorry I missed your call. I had 4 listing appointments today, 5 buyers, and I wrote like 6 contracts. And then he hung up with her and called me back. He's like, dude, you're right. Like,
I attracted that to my
that call. I'm like, okay, run all the active listings in your market right now. Run the closing rates, like, how many homes are going off market, whatever. That inventory is available for you. Like, if you're realizing a slowdown in your business, it's because you're running slow. It's limiting beliefs on yourself. Go call the top teams in your area and ask them, how many deals you guys closing on average a month? And if you compare it to your low level of production of doing maybe 1 to 2, it's like, no, a slow month for them is their market on one of the bigger teams is definitely reflective of the overall market, the MLS. There's a 5% dip. They're probably feeling a 5% dip because they're a big team. But the waves are happening up here. Your level of production's down here. You're not affected by the wave up there. You could easily double, triple, quadruple your business if you increase your activity. So that's kind of my response to a slow market.
Activity breeds success.
What do you think, Josh?
Well, I don't think it matters. And when I say that, this is because this podcast is for real estate professionals.
Right.
I'm not speaking to the general public, here, the homeowners, buyers, whatever. But at the end of the day, it does not fucking matter. Real estate is always traded hands, always will. So there's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. And this is what I'm always pitching to my agents is it's our job as real estate professionals, because real estate's our product. So it's just our job to identify, okay, whom whom is the current market good for? Where is the opportunity at? And then just go out there and pivot. And it's how I've been able to, since 2005, grow my business each and every single year, regardless of the marketplace. I mean, you look at last year, our business was more buyer heavy than it's ever been, about 70% buy side, 30% list side. And I've always tried to keep it more like a 50-50 balance.
Sure.
The only other time that it was off of that was during REO and short sales, 2008 to 2013, where we were like, 85% list, 15% buy side. But that was because I made a lot of mistakes with not building out big enough. I should have had buyer agent armies, right? But I look at this, I'm like, okay, last year we're in the most saturated real estate market per cap on the planet. We're the fastest growing metro in the United States. We're the fastest appreciating. So we're 39% in 2020 and then 32% in 2021. And we're kind of the mecca for all these institutions, right? So I'm like, most competitive environment, lowest inventory, out there. And we still grew our production by almost 50 million last year, but it was just, hey, like, here's the cards that were dealt. I can't bitch and moan about the market. Like, I can't control it. What the fuck good does it do for me or any of my agents to bitch? It's like, here's the cards that we're dealt. How do we go out there and best play this hand? So you identify where the opportunity is at, who the market's good for, where the opportunity is at. That becomes your ideal client. You pivot your messaging to, going after whomever. And it's like right now in my market, first time buyers are pretty much wiped out. Even the middle class is wiped out. So it's upper middle class, affluent, and institutions. So it's like, okay, we got to identify, okay, where are they buying? What is the type of product that they're buying? Same thing with on the sell side, like who's selling, why are they selling, where are they going? Okay, who's buying, what are they buying, why are they buying? And then that becomes, okay, that identifies the who, that's the demographics.
Right.
Then we and when we know the why behind it, that's the psychographics, that becomes our messaging. Then we identify where they congregate and then put a plan together. And is being able to do that, we've been able to, thrive regardless of the marketplace. So, to me, success is always internal, never external. And I'll never let my agents, it's like when COVID first hit, man, like I was like, look, guys, like burying our head in the sand is going to fucking help. Here's the scenario. Here's the situation. What do we need to do to adapt, shift, and change? So many people have this negative mindset around change, but I'm like, dude, it's the one inevitable thing that's always been and always will be. Don't embrace it. Don't have a negative outlook on it. My preach to my agents, which is more heavy now. I'm doing more meetings with my agents than I ever have before. Is because I believe that what is to come is going to be, whether you want to call it gnarly, nasty, severe, there'll be massive opportunity, but I think it's going to get extremely ugly for most. Just because I don't see any fix to the supply chain issues, any fix to, inflation. We've got the worst inflation that we've ever seen historically. If you count inflation, how it was calculated, 40, 50 years ago, true inflation calculated back then about 20%. We get the second highest unemployment that we've ever seen. True unemployment is about 25% right now. And there's no fix to this, and increasing interest rates a little bit isn't going to fix the debt problem that we have. So, and when I say there's no fix, I'm just talking about the pendulum always swings. We're here, it's going to, and eventually it'll get back to here, but it's going to swing back. So, you look at the stock market, according to the, Buffett indexes. And if you look at the profit earnings ratios, is 57% above, a baseline of where it should be, because if you scroll out far enough, you see a baseline of growth, that the real estate market, takes, that the stock market takes, that the bond market takes, so you can see where these bubbles are, the outliers are. The problem is it doesn't go from 57% down to baseline. It goes 57% down to 30% negative and then meets up to the baseline. So we know that real estate nationwide. Now, real estate's very hyper local. So your market won't be hit as hard as my market. My market is, going to be hit hard just like it was in 2008, just because of the amount of investors buying and the stupid shit we're seeing take place here. So real estate nationwide is about 40% of a bubble. Then the bond market is the biggest bubble at all, but we're the biggest at all asset class bubble that we've ever seen in recorded history, not just as a nation, globally. So, I don't know any way, shape, form, or fashion that this doesn't, get ugly. But to me, that's a good thing, because inflation is not good. Like you look at the average age of, now I get that our monetary system is built off of inflation. Inflation must exist for it to take place. However, the average age of the average home buyer right now is like 37 years old. 12 months ago it's 34, now it's 37. Like that's not healthy for a country. Like to wait till you're almost 40 to go out there and be able to afford your first, we're becoming, so deflation means that we have, now people don't want to see their 401ks go down. They don't want to see their home values go down, but it's like, look, that just means that your dollar is stronger. Right now we're devaluing the currency. Long-term, watch any fiat, there's 500 fiat currencies prior to the US dollar,
right?
Ongoing, hyperinflation that we're experiencing right now. And we're on the verge of superinflation, which, that would mean that we can't turn back. But then eventually it all just unravels,
Right.
So if we don't reset down to it and have a deflationary time frame, it's going to be ugly. But either way, it's going to be ugly because this is kind of going down rabbit holes, but the central banks won't allow.
Yeah,
they'll do everything they can to fight off a deflationary depression because our monetary system is based off of inflation. So deflation would dissolve the monetary system.
Yeah.
So why I say, but with all that being said and sometimes that'll scare people and sometimes I'll spook my teammates, but I'm like, look, you guys, here's the thing is there's going to be so much opportunity through all of this. There may be a little bit less opportunities than we've seen in the past, but there'll be much bigger moves and more bigger, there might be less players in the game, but there's going to be bigger opportunities to have. So don't embrace it, but pay attention and be prepared, and there's going to be, I'm more stoked for the future than I've ever been. There's going to be some massive opportunities for, guys like you and guys like me that are here to play the game. We're not here to fuck around.
And I think 1,000% you need to be ready for that too. So what that means for your average agent person, you need to be stacking something away to be able to take a hit for, 1 to 2 months to where you have enough going on to stay. Because if we were down and out like we are now during the COVID situation, when all the government loans and everything went away, it took us 45, 60 days to really get back to where we were. So save up a little bit of cash flow and capital and
that saved us.
Get your passive income up.
Yeah. And and you got to be ready to go on the offense, aggressively. And so for us in our real estate market, we just knew first year opening a brokerage, we build up. So everything was a constant lift. Each month was outpacing the last month. And then we got to the slow months, November, December, January, and then now February. And so November, we had our biggest month ever. December, it dipped out. January was kind of nothing really happened. And then we popped off, had our largest month, February. And so we anticipated that slow month. We knew, we got a reserve account. That's going to drop down to about half or whatever we have it at. And that's going to feed us. We're going to be able to make payroll. Everything's going to be kosher. And we saw it coming, and our attitude, we go all in. So we just went hard on prospecting and recruiting, getting our agents engaged, and it totally flipped 180. Now we're totally set up for success. If we're having our largest month ever right now in February, this summer is going to be nuts. So and you could take advantage of these opportunities too. I remember you talking about you doing REO sales back whenever that was an opportunity. And you have a class on it too, I believe. So
yeah, I teamed up with one of the lead senior asset managers, or was at the time, for Freddie Mac, VR. This dude's just the most brilliant dude I know on that side of it. Now he runs a real estate team now in Utah. But we created a program which, we don't advertise it much in today's market, but REO University that teaches agents how to do REO and short sales.
I have it archived because I know when that day comes, I'm going to buy it.
And looking at even with my own agents, I'm not telling them to get prepped for REO yet. With my staff, we have already started kind of just dusting off, all over our short sale playbooks. Because short sales will come first, and I don't believe that REO. Well, it's so hard because we don't know, but I would be very surprised if REO comes back in the way that it did. Not meaning that there's going to be insane amount of people losing homes, and we're already starting to see that uptick. But since about 2013, 2014 timeframe, HUD is an example, they quit going to market with their REO, their foreclosures that met institutional buy boxes of the Blackstones of the world. So they just package them up, sell them off to Blackstone, and Blackstone is who's the major funder and shareholder in Zillow? So when you look at Blackstone, not Blackstone, sorry, BlackRock. But Blackstone as well. BlackRock is the major shareholder in Blackstone as well as, them and it gets confusing because they own so many kind of
Right.
sub companies and so forth, but they're the major funder behind Zillow and almost all, the Open Doors of the world, all these platforms out there. Maybe not Open Door. I shouldn't have thrown that one out there because I don't know that one for a fact.
Is Homie still in business in
Is
Arizona?
who?
Homie.
Oh yeah. They're but here, dude, in 2005, 2006, 2007, dude, we saw it was like the birth of all these discount brokerages, and then the market corrected and boom, because they all went away. And then that same thing will happen. Because here's the thing, dude, is when you're like, anybody that hasn't worked since like pre-2012 has never been in a normal market. We're just coming off, or still really amongst, and real estate, at least, the longest bull market in recorded history. So when your average listing is taking 6 months to sell, it takes a different skill set. And taking a fucking, 1% or flat fee, it's very difficult, so you'll start, these get weeded out, dude, right? There's forest fires for a reason, to let the new growth come up, and, but yeah, they still exist today, but dude, our company's our industry is, anybody that's not profitable. And we're already seeing that, if you look at the stock market, all your growth stocks are taking a massive hit. I mean, if you look at like the S&P 500, if you look at 350 of those, or it's just over 350, are just getting crushed. It's a small percentage that are, holding up and inflating everybody else, but it's back to the fundamentals, like Open Door, who's big in my market. In 2020, they lost like 85 million. I don't know. Their loss in 2021, I believe, was 120 some million. I haven't vetted that, or I haven't went and looked at, now that we're into 2022, now what the final loss was. But you got this company that continues to lose more and more money each year. Now they continue to grow more and do more revenue each year, but they are also growing. They're not reducing their net loss on an annual basis. They're taking the opposite. But dude, they had last time I checked, a $10 billion market cap. Like, that shit's just going away, dude. Like they're with the crunch that we're already starting to see, with the fall of the bond market, the stock market, and and then when this bubble bursts, you're going to see a weeding out, which I'm excited for, because it'll be back to the fundamentals, back to the basics. And just like you guys both said, man, it also comes down to, on a personal standpoint, of making smart strategic decisions personally, getting a year worth of personal reserves in the bank, year worth of business reserves in the bank. At least that's my personal opinion. But not being over leveraged, and people got to realize, when you're in these massive shifts, dude, like when REO hit here REO and short sales in 2000, let's just say about 9, I had to go almost 7-8 months without a paycheck. Yeah. And it wasn't because we weren't doing business. It was the opposite, dude. We were doing so much business. And at that time, I was having to self-fund these banks for all the cash for keys. And dude, within 90 days, I was $250,000 out in receivables, meaning when they need to do carpet, paint, cash for keys, I had to fund them, and I had to cut the money to the vendors and then wait 6 months to get reimbursed by the banks. So I was, we were growing massive amounts of closings and units, but in order to make payroll, and in order to, I had 1 month, my record month was like it was just under 100 grand. It's just, 90 some grand, and just cash for key payouts, right? So, I got checks going out that I'm not getting reimbursed on for, 90 days, sometimes 6 months, so it may not even be that, because your business gets hit hard. And we see this. You go read, great books like Shoe Dog about Nike and their inception and their growth before they went public, of like, dude, you can, like, growing pains can be worse than slow pains. But if you're not in a position to be able to handle those, then you can't pivot and shift and change, just like you guys alluded to, like, got to be in a position to weather that storm.
Are you gonna stay in the stock market, or are you gonna pull out?
No, I'm completely out of everything right now. Everything right now. So, and I'm actually moving back to Michigan.
Nice.
Well, that's where it looks like it's going to be, in June, somewhere in the Midwest. Now I'll keep all my businesses here in Arizona, but, I'm buying a farm, and,
I'm
gonna say, I got a farm too. We could be.
Yeah. I'm just saying, a small family farm where we're fully self-sufficient with water, power, food, I figure that's, because right now I don't really know where to park money. Other than like maybe gold, right? And then I want to have a strong cash position, because these people that like cash is trash. I don't know where they're getting this data from. If you look at one brilliant move that our country's done, or at least our central banks have done, is, make the moves, become the central banks of all these other large and emerging countries out there. So we are essentially, we're essentially the global central bank now. So with these swap lines, like with all this money printing that's taking place, our dollar is still stayed so strong and is gaining in strength. So I think we're going to be in a strong US dollar position for some time. And
Right.
even if we're not, I'll take a loss and a hit on that to be liquid, to be able to make big moves, and just have my cash not tied up. Yeah. So I'm out of everything right now. I figure the next best move right now, at least that I can do, is go buy some land and make that self-sufficient. So our own water source, food source, power source, so full off-grid living.
Very cool.
But I figure my kids too are young enough. My youngest is 8 and my oldest is 13. So I want to do this as a family, so yeah, we're just getting out of the system, man. I'm going to be homeschooling my kids personally next year. And, and I'll still have businesses going and running my businesses, and I'll have, studio on site at the farm. But
are you still going to do the 7 to 7?
What's the 7 to 7?
Like wake up at 7, work till 7. That's kind of your schedule, right? At least. Well,
no, dude, I've about 2 months ago, man, I semi-retired. So I'm working a max of 15 hours a week right now. And that includes the podcast. So, yeah, so now I've been waking up at about 7. And then I've been going to bed about 7 or 8 at night and waking up about 7.
I remember your first podcast. It was kind of mindset and stuff. And it was like 4 a.m., wake up, get a workout in. And me and him hit that together, and it'd be 9, 10 o'clock and we'd just be out. Now our diet probably wasn't like yours, but we really went into that mantra too. Like, you got to wake up early, got to hit it hard, got to stay up all day.
And it's a consistency thing too. Like when you roll into different like routine changes and whatnot, I think you really got to listen to your body. Like whatever you respond to personally. I get too many agents that are way too self-critical over not waking up immediately when their alarm clock goes off, and they allow it to wreck their entire day. Yeah. And so like having a little bit of like forgiveness for yourself when your body's not responding right away is, like, I think you need that. And so like with us, we'd get on like different routines and schedules, but like our home life was a little different. And so if I'm waking up at 4 a.m., it might feel different for him because, I don't got a family, I don't got kids, and like whatever. So trying to
like, dude, I have one of my buddies and he's big in the real estate business and industry. And dude, he doesn't wake up till 10 a.m. every day. He rolls in the office around 1, but he works till like 2 a.m. Like to me, there's 24 hours in the day. Yeah. And depending on which element of your business you're in, so if you're in startup mode, you got to pick and choose which 17 hours of the day you want to fucking grind. I don't care which 17 it is. You just got, and when you're bootstrapping and you're in startup mode, probably the first 2 to 3 years, maybe even 5 years, as long as it takes, it's going to be there, for me, I've been at this for 17 plus years where I've been able to, build the right teams. And then, I exited from 6 of my companies over the last few years. So, I just got to the point where I, had almost a dozen companies, and that doesn't mean that I was involved in all of them. Some I just, had a major share position in. I was more of a financial investor from an ownership standpoint, but I just decided I wanted to simplify my life a little bit. And, we're businesses continuing to grow. It's just now it's without my involvement. And again, with my kids, this is something that really, one of the blessings with COVID is I think it forced us all to really reflect differently. And, one of my reflections was, man, I spent the last 15 years helping all these other people become leaders, but I'm not working with my own kids on helping them become leaders. Yeah. And I'm like, I got this small window left, dude. Like I said, my daughter's 13 right now. My youngest is 8. Mm-hmm. Not that a blink of an eye, they're 18 all out the door. So I'm like, okay, let me slow down in the new startup businesses. Let me just, kind of shrink this thing, and still have operate great. And I'll still have some involvement, but let me just, do these things with my kids that I know I'll regret if I don't do. And then, cause I like retirement, that's why I say I semi-retired, right? Cause retirement's like the only curse word in my language of, like I'll pick it all back up. I'm 40 now, but by the time I'm 50, I'll probably be in better shape than I am now at 40.
Yeah. Right.
It's like I just get in better shape.
Go back in time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll get back at it and go those 80 hours a week, but right now I'm just, I had to there's a great book that dude I had in the podcast. I think his name is Richard Thomasina. It was Die with Zero. He recommended this book called Die with Zero. And dude, it really hit me hard, man. It was an awesome book. But it just talks about the different chapters of your life where you could do different things. Like as an example, okay, we save up all this money as parents and then we gift it to our kids when we die.
Right.
well, our kids don't need the money at that point. Why not save some up and then give it to them as their first down payment of their house, or their, when they actually need the funds. There's different times, like maybe you want to go take this, I don't know, you want to go climb Mount Everest. Well, you can't wait till you're 60 to do that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a certain age limit so it was really reprioritizing your life, but then getting that point where like, if you do this right, what he means with dying with zero is, not as the whole concept wasn't necessarily to die broke with zero, but it was really just utilizing your money and your time wisely at the different phases of your life. And it was just a different perspective than I had looked at before. It really made me focus and think differently. It made me like, I've given up, public speaking altogether completely, because again, I just got sick of travel. I mean, if I can't travel with my kids and optimize that time with them, again, in 10 years when they're out of the house, whatever, then fuck it. I'll go do all that shit at that time.
Dude, for me, I noticed at the gym, I've been like, I'll see people who are obviously like old, kind of on their last leg, like guy at the gym, kind of, he's just spending his day at the gym because he doesn't know what else to do. He looks like he's 80 or 90 years old. And I just kind of think, I'm wondering what kind of, like, if he saw the stuff we were getting into, the businesses we're trying to grow, how excited we are about everything we're doing, like different ventures, partner up with friends. I'm like, I bet there's a part of him that wants to be doing what we're doing and wishes he can go back, but he would not be able to contribute hardly anything because of his health and age, and he's just exiting his life. And I'm like, dang, like I'm going to be there one day. So I might as well just try to do everything I can, leave no stone unturned, because like I'm going to be looking at some young kids just out there hustling, looking like they're having a ball. And I'm going to be, kind of just sitting on the bench looking at them, it's just, life just passes.
One thing I'd like to piggyback on that with is, if anyone feels like they're in a hamster wheel with their business and they kind of want to get out of it, just know, like, you can contact us anytime and we can tell you where we were and how we got out of it. And we're always available for stuff like that. And that's what we're passionate about. It's not so much the inside the business stuff, but it's, man, we're like you. We want to train great leaders. We want to help more people get out of where we were just a year and a half ago. So I think there's a lot of power in that. And if you want to hear our story and kind of what we got going on, shoot, we're always able to get on for a call or whatever else.
Yeah. And anybody that's watching or listening, we'll make sure to have, your guys' contact information below that they can just scroll and snag all that to make it easy. And it's one of these things, dude, where, so often in entrepreneurship, it can be this lonely road, but a lot of that's self-induced. I mean, there is an element of loneliness of entrepreneurship that, like, hey, you can't really go home and talk to your spouse about this stuff because they really don't understand or know what's going on or whatever. And then, can't really talk to your friend because we're all living different, however, though, there is a group and a community of people out there that have been through all the same shit that you went through, right? Like, we all go through the same struggles. I mean, there's going to be differences to them, but at a very, very high level, it's like we all go through that same shit.
Struggle. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How you surround yourself with.
Yeah. The who, not how, like, and that's why we partnered up together. It's like we could both try to do this on our own and compete. I mean, we got buddies in our market. We invite them to what we're doing. We try to get them to get on board with us, and they're just kind of happy where they're at. Well, okay, that's fine. But, it's like, if you could just find some key players that help move the ball, like on a high level, that's a game changer, Yeah. Partnerships matter. It is.
Yep. 100%, man. So Ryan and David, like, just in case, again, we'll have this all below in the show notes and so forth with all your guys' contact information, but if somebody's driving, if, you can't write this down, like, where is the best place or places to get a hold of you guys? If they want to go check out what you're doing, continue following you, or they do have some questions, where's the best place?
Facebook,
1,000%. Man, we'll group you in a group chat with us and we can all chat back and forth. That's the best place to get a hold of us. We got our phones on us. We can put our numbers down, but really Facebook and social media are really powerful in that aspect. So,
but I think that I'm connected with both you guys on Facebook, right? So are you cool with me just putting like what your handle is and click and just shoot you a request right there?
100%. Yeah, that's the easiest way. I mean, everything's there and we could just chat instantly. So.
All right, man. Yeah. Any last word before we wrap this up? I know we're going long on time here, but any last, words of advice, anything that maybe you wished you would have done differently? Just any kind of closing thoughts?
Last thing.
All right. What's yours?
If we can do it, anybody can do it. We are not geniuses. We don't have a Harvard education. Man, we grew up together. We were just some clowns at school. Like, And if we can do it, literally you can do it and get out of the hamster wheel too.
And my thing is too, like when the going gets tough, man, like if you never quit, you'll never fail. I always think when I get down on myself, I think of that Bob Marley song where he's like, don't worry about a thing, every little thing. So I actually like kind of sing it to myself in my head when I'm like in the dumps, and I'm like, fuck, this deal, this thing. I'm like, everything's going to be all right. Just, you know? So like, if we could do it, anybody can. You got to get around the right people too.
That reminds me of when we were flat broke starting our business, and our business account, we went to Florida, had a $5,000 hotel to meet with you guys when we were first starting this whole venture. I pulled it out of my savings account, and I remember being so down in the dumps, like defeated for a couple of weeks. And then that's the dip I feel like everybody goes through. And if you give up, you're not going to make it. But if you push through, man, you can do literally anything.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. And I think always ask yourself what's next. Like that's really been pivotal for us. So I think you should audit that on a regular basis and read the 12-week year. That book's a game changer.
Yeah, I know Ryan's referred that to me a few times. I've never read it though. It's good.
Dude, it's nuts. Well, I mean, you're kind of going opposite.
Look up the YouTube video on it. It'll tell you everything you want to know. But
yeah.
Oh
yeah, it just condenses a year into a quarter. You know, a quarter of a year, 3 months, and it's game changer.
Compound effects, same way. Mm-hmm. Doing a little bit each day extra, it's going to go take you miles ahead in the future. So
yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, we're kind of fearless in our risk taking, but we're doing things strategically and we're leading with profit. So just get the right people in your corner to watch your back.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, such powerful
appreciate it, Jeff.
Yeah, appreciate you guys and those watching, listening. As always, we really appreciate your support. Again, right below, if you scroll down, we'll have the links to Ryan and David's Facebook profiles. Plus, I'll make sure their website numbers are all down there, so you have that as well. And appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you watching and listening. Keep crushing. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Hey guys.
Bye, guys.